There is a dog in your life right now who is slower in the mornings than he used to be. I know that one. You might not have named it yet. You've just noticed. The way they take the stairs with a little more intention. The way they wait at the bottom of the couch before they commit. The way the gray has settled in around the muzzle. And you're not quite sure when that started. My old Chihuahua, Noodle, he's 8 now, did something last week that I've been turning over ever since. I came downstairs before sunrise, couldn't sleep, made coffee, and sat on the couch in the dark. He climbed up, turned around once, twice, the way he always does, and laid his head on my knee. That was IT. He put his weight there and went back to sleep. I sat very still for a long time. I want to talk about what it's actually like to love an old dog. Not the checklist version, the honest version. The one with the extra vet visits, the slower walks, and the limp you've learned to read. The version where, under all of that, something quieter and more permanent than you expected has been growing. That's what today is about. I'm glad you're here for this one. Stay with me. The aging of a dog is not dramatic. It is not sudden. It is not announced. It happens one Tuesday in October when you notice your dog is sleeping past the time they usually get up. It happens the morning you realize you've been lifting them over the back step for months, automatically, without thinking about it. It happens when the walk that used to take 40 minutes now fits into 15, and somehow it takes just as long because you both stop more. Small and medium dogs are generally considered seniors around 7 years of age. Giant breeds can reach that threshold closer to 5 or 6, but senior isn't a cliff, it's a gradient. What changes isn't one thing but many things at once quietly, in parallel. The joints absorb impact a little differently. Sleep cycles shift. The senses soften at the edges. Hearing that used to catch the mail truck 3 streets away may need your face directly in front of it now. Vision that could track a squirrel from across the yard starts to narrow. Noodle is 8, a Chihuahua. Small dogs often run longer, and I do hold on to that. But 8 means we are well into the second half, and I've had to learn to read a different dog than the one I brought home. The strange thing is, the adjustments I've made, lifting him over the step, slowing the walk to his pace, sitting down when he wants to settle, they haven't felt like subtracting things. They've felt like paying a different kind of attention. A slower kind, same. My poodle, she's not quite 2, still moves through a walk like there's a prize at the end. Everything is a signal. Everything is worth chasing. And sometimes I watch Noodle on that same walk, stopping where he wants to stop, taking in whatever he's taking in at a pace I've learned to match. And I think, he's not behind her. He's somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that looks pretty good from where I'm standing. For a long time, I made a mistake. I assumed that if Noodle were in pain, I would know. He'd cry, he'd hold his leg up, he'd tell me somehow. That assumption was wrong, and I say that as someone who has spent the better part of a year reading through veterinary pain research and feeling both more informed and considerably more humbled than when I started. Dogs are stoic. Not because they're especially brave, but because of something they inherited long before they lived in houses. The AAHA, the American Animal Hospital Association, has addressed this directly in their pain management guidelines. Dogs evolved in an environment where showing weakness was a liability. An animal that appeared injured was an animal at a disadvantage. That evolutionary heritage is still in your dog. Your senior dog may be hurting in ways they have spent a lifetime learning not to show you. This is what you're watching for. Not crying, not obvious limping, not dramatic distress, but the subtle rewrite. Your dog hesitates at the bottom of a staircase they used to take without thinking. They sit differently, or favor one side. They're slower to settle at night, or slower to get up in the morning. Appetite shifts in a way you can't quite explain. Energy that's changed not suddenly, but over weeks or months. I'm not a vet. I will say that clearly. And I'll say it more than once in anything I make about dog health because it matters. Any single one of those signs might mean nothing. A pattern of them, something that feels like a change, is worth a real conversation with your veterinarian, not a YouTube video. A vet, I asked Dr. Hale about this when Noodle was around 7, before she found the heart murmur, before any of that was on our radar, and something she said has stayed with me. She said the biggest risk with senior dogs isn't the dramatic things, it's the quiet ones. The small shifts that have been accumulating for months before you give them a name. I think about that sentence a lot. There's a project I keep coming back to when I think about what's actually happening inside an aging dog. It's called the Dog Aging Project, and it's being run out of the University of Washington. It's a long-term study, what researchers call longitudinal, meaning they follow the same dogs across years, not just observe them once in a lab. And they've enrolled tens of thousands of companion dogs, dogs living in homes with families, to try to understand why some dogs age slowly and some quickly, what factors in their daily lives predict longevity, and whether anything might extend not just how long a dog lives, but how well. Stay with me here, because this is the part I find most interesting. What they keep finding confirms something dog owners have sensed for a long time. The aging of a companion dog is not simply decline. Some of it is loss, yes. Some of it is recalibration. As your dog's sensory world narrows, the hearing that softens, the vision that tightens, something shifts in how they navigate it. They track scent more. They track your location more specifically. Some behavioral research suggests that older dogs, precisely because the wider world has gotten harder to read, may orient more strongly toward their person. The bond doesn't thin out. In some dogs, it seems to concentrate. I won't overstate that. The science on this is still being gathered, and anyone who tells you otherwise is getting ahead of the data. But it's consistent with what I see in Noodle, a dog who, at 3 or 4 years old, had his own entire agenda, who now follows me from room to room just to check where I am. There's one more thing worth knowing, because understanding it makes you a better reader of your dog. Canine cognitive dysfunction, CCD, is a neurological condition in aging dogs, a gradual shift in memory, orientation, and sleep patterns that can look like confusion or a kind of distance. Studies suggest a meaningful portion of dogs over the age of 10 develop at least some signs. The early markers are quiet, pausing in a room as if they've forgotten why they came in, sleeping at unusual hours, seeming briefly disoriented in a space they've known for years. Your vet can assess for this. There are management approaches. And naming it means you stop interpreting those moments as random. You start understanding what your dog might be asking for. There's something worth sitting with in that. Sometimes, what looks like distance is just their brain struggling to map the room. They aren't ignoring you. They're lost. Your patience and your vet's guidance is how you help them find their footing again. The Dog Aging Project has been running for about 6 years now, and the data is still coming in. But what it's already established, that the later years of a companion dog's life are worth understanding on their own terms, matters to me personally. I have a small dog with a heart murmur and a sunny spot on the rug. I am paying attention. That morning, the one I mentioned at the start, before sunrise, just me and a cup of coffee in the dark quiet of the house, I sat with Noodle's head on my knee and didn't move for a long time. He wasn't asking for anything. He wasn't in distress. He'd just found the warmest weight he knew, and he put himself there. Here's what I've come to believe. After 8 years with this dog and a year of reading everything I could find about what's happening inside him, the senior years aren't a waiting room. They are the years you have earned. Your old dog knows things about you that your young dog was still figuring out. They know how you sound at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep. They know how long after the coffee maker beeps before you'll sit down. They know your moods the way you know theirs, not because they're trying, but because you've been in each other's air for years. What people call adjustment, slowing the walk, lifting them over the step, watching more carefully, is not subtraction. It is not the story becoming less. It is not the good years giving way to something harder. It's a different kind of fluency. It's knowing someone well enough to learn their language as it changes, the gray muzzle and the slower pace, and the limp you've learned to read. Those aren't diminishment. They're the story you've accumulated together. There is a specific kind of quiet in being the person an old dog leans against in the dark. It's just a privilege to be there for it. The senior years are honestly, and I mean that word the same way I always mean it, more than I expected. Harder in some ways, bigger in the ways that matter. Your dog is aging right now, quietly and without ceremony. They have no idea what the calendar says. They just know whether you showed up today. That's enough for them. Here's what I want to ask you before I go. What does your old dog do that you've stopped trying to explain? The particular way they settle near you at the end of the day, the look they give you from across the room that you've decided not to translate. Tell me down in the comments. Tell me about your dog and how old they are. I want to know. I read every one of them. I always do. See you in the next one.